Hey, Sandra, y'all. Welcome to Tuesday. We're back. Seems like it's only been a week, and it was. I hope everyone is having a good week, had a good weekend. I hope those in the Great North are thawing out some. I hesitate to tell you it was 70 degrees here today in South Louisiana, and finally got some sunshine. And it's been a good day, but yet we'll have another wet weekend coming up on Mardi Gras. I don't know if you can check out. We got a little bit of Mardi Gras coming, starting to decorate a little bit here and there because 2 weeks from tonight is Mardi Gras. Fat Tuesday as we celebrate the end of gluttony before we start Lent here in South Louisiana. So, want to say hey, see who all is in tonight. I'm super excited about what we're going to talk about, but we'll get there. We'll get there. My buddy from the other corner of the state, hey, Mark JG is in. Hello, everybody, and you too, friend. Out west, hey, Tom, good to see you. Whiskey and Wine Trails. And over in England, hey, good morning to you too, Andrew. It was good to catch you on Ben's show earlier this afternoon when I was still working. Yeah, super. Thanks for being here. And Kathy's in. Hey, thanks for being in. I'm glad you were able to join us tonight. I'm super stoked about tonight. Because I'm really, really excited about the video that we released last week. And so I wanted to piggyback on that conversation I had. I had an interview, but it really was more of a conversation. If you got to watch the video, it was a lot of him talking, which was great. But it was more conversational than just answering a bunch of questions and in a formal interview kind of thing. Hey, Martin's in Whiskey Franco. Check out him on Instagram. He does lives on Instagram in the evenings, and he's a lot of fun. And unfortunately, sometimes I'm usually making dodo, which is I'm asleep about that time. But yeah, I need to catch one of those, Martin. And hey, Sandra, y'all. Hey, Rob. Good to see you too. And thanks for the comments on the video. We got a good pass on the comments, and I know it was a commitment. It's a 33-minute commitment, but wow, what an exciting guy! What an exciting distillery. Just really cool to see everything. And this guy, hey Chad, good to see you. I hope you're warming up there a little bit. I'm afraid maybe not. We'll see. But thanks for joining us. Molasses is in. Hello, friend. And we've got Meow Sugar Kitty, of course. Thank you, friend, for being in. And I'm pretty sure you've had some of Holyrood's new whiskey. No idea why my voice has decided to go out. It was fine all day today. And Troopers in, still offshore. Oof, week 4. Ooh, when are you going to be on dry land? It's just as well. The crawfish are really running late this year and low. So hopefully by the time you get off of the rig and you'll be able to get some crawfish and you'll be happy. So, but thanks for being on tonight. Can only imagine what the folks out there out in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico think about you watching a whiskey show with your buddy. Yeah, on a Tuesday night. But thanks for being here, Trooper, and be safe out there, friend. Always safe, always safe. Jimmy Jass is in. Good evening to you, my friend. It's so good to see y'all. Old Farm Show. Hey, welcome. Thanks for jumping in and saying hello. We appreciate you being here. I think you'll see we all have a lot of fun and some super nice people in the chat. Yes, happy carnival. Laissez le bon temps rouler. Let the good times roll. And believe me, we know how to do that. We're professionals at that down here. Definitely so. So yeah, tonight, what I want to do is we're going to do a live Camp Dram for the arrival. Holyrood Distillery. Important to know, Holyrood, kind of if they say, because it's only one L, not Holly, as in wood. But their distillery just released in October their first bottling, and it's called Arrival, which I thought was really sweet, and a great play on the circumstance. Um, but before we get to that, we are going to kind of do a recap of the video for those who might be able not to have seen it yet. I would, even if you need to play like a podcast, he's so interesting. And Callum Ray, and I'll just share it's this, and we'll throw the link in the chat. I know it's already in the description of this video, but Callum Ray is just an absolute delight. And when I went over in November for the Glasgow Whiskey Festival, um, prior to that, I'd been trying, with the summer trip, I had a lot of footage and I had a lot of stuff. And I was trying to think, what do I want to do with it? And the more I think about things, it's like I really like talking to people, and who wants to see or really listen to me talk about, a voiceover B-roll as I'm going through a video, as opposed to sitting down with a distiller, it's sitting down with a distillery manager and talking about strategy and cask and yeast and all the geeky stuff we love, right? So in talking with Rob and Kelly, and then talking with Callum and getting his schedule, guy's busy. He's trying to make some whiskey. And so they released Arrival in October. I was there the second week in November, right off the heels of that release. So he was so generous to sit down with me, took the train over from Glasgow. We literally set up a makeshift set. The backdrop here, they're one of their mottos, because they are so ingrained in the city of Edinburgh, is we make the spirit, the city makes us. And I love that mantra. They've got a lot of ethos type mantras and just kind of creeds about things, about the way they have a mindset about how they want to build whiskey. And the passion this guy has is like very contagious, as you can tell. But we had the best time. So if you can, be sure to go over and watch that when you can. Play it like a podcast, whatever you need to do. It's a whole lot of fun to listen to, and we definitely giggle and talk about some things. That's fun. I learned what a Jaffa cake was. That was interesting. But yeah, and we'll bring up some of the points that we made during that as well. Yeah, I want to see. Yeah, Zach and Whiskey Frank Martin, they kind of go a little late on Instagram, but it's fun. There's a place for everybody everywhere. Hey, Jennifer's in. She's what'd you tell me? It was 5 weeks, 6 weeks before you head over to Springbank. I'm so excited for you. I can't stand it. Cannot stand it. But yeah. So let me know what you're drinking tonight. But I also want to know, have you had the new Arrival, their release, the Holyrood release? If you've had that, or if you're drinking it tonight, if you do. And also, and firstly, I would say, have you had any of their new make? Because it's a new distillery, right? And they have not been able to, you gotta do something, right? You gotta make some cash. And when I was there this summer, I bought a bottle of their new make. Because I think, and I even talk about this with him in the video, you get a lot of an idea, a real good idea of where a whiskey is going to go if you can try their new make. And this is where I think this new crop of whiskey makers are trying to get ahead of the age, so to speak. And by that, what I mean is, if you're putting out a new make where you really have to rely on a cask to age it the way and to mature it the way it needs to be, the way you want it to taste, that's you're going to be sitting on that cask for a while and quite frankly, hoping for the best, you know. But if you are really pulling great new make off of a still, with the ingredients in, with, the care on the cuts, all of those things, and being pretty meticulous about what is coming off of the still, I think you have a major leg up. And I see that trend. And again, this is just what I see. It's not like I'm some, expert at this, but it just seems to me that some of these new distillers are really pushing that as much as they can. When you have a really good new make at Isle of Raasay, the new make we had at Clydeside, very fruity and open, crisp, very nice. When you get into that kind of a realm of these new distillers, what is coming off that still is the absolute foundation of what you got to work with. And then your cask can just complement it. I mean, it's still going to build your taste, right? It's still going to build and give the profile and the kind of identity to it. But that new make has got to be good. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about that first before we get into the arrival. Thank you very much. I'm super interested. This is where I geek out, y'all. Can you tell I'm a little excited? I'm a little excited about talking about like chemistry. And I even told Callum this when we were walking around. It's like, if my 10th grade chemistry teacher, Miss Buck, had like put the principles of chemistry to me in the application of distillation, I probably would have made better grades. Just saying, Hey, Donna is in Mill Valley, California. Hey, friend, thanks for being in. I know it's still kind of early for y'all out west. Really appreciate it. Yeah, Chad, you got to see him at Victoria, right? Incredibly knowledgeable, approachable, totally geeked out both his tasting. Yeah, at Victoria, awesome. Their transparency is totally off the chart, and we're going to talk about that. So that tells you something else, when we talk about this new kids. As I told Callum in the interview, I was like, all of this crop of new distilleries, I call the new cool kids club, because they kind of like come in here and there's like, we're gonna make our whiskey. We're gonna make the whiskey we want to make. And doing that, you have like Ardna Merkin was very much, top of mind about, we're going to make the whiskey we want to make, and with the way their new make is. So yeah, I totally get that part of it. He's just, not only we're going to make the whiskey, but we're going to tell you everything about it. Like for Ardna Merkin's experience, example, it's down to who the bottler was, who the stillman was that day, how long, all the information. Holyrood does that as well. And we're going to take a quick look into that in a bit. I want to see who else has jumped in here, because I have gone on and on and on. Kathy's got a Tamdu 12. Ooh, such a luscious, luxurious. I just, yum. So very good. So yes, you do have a wee sample of Arrival. Wonder where you got that. That awesome. Yeah, I want to definitely hear what you have to say. And speaking of, hi from Kelly. Hey, from Calgary. Good. I hope you were warming up, friend. And great to see you. And of course, one of the owners of Holyrood. So, can't thank you and Rob enough for seeing me this summer, and then getting to meet Callum. It's just, the guy's effervescent, I mean, he just oozes positivity. So well done on that hire, might I say. So the tasting, I wondered about this, what they were going to do. So Victoria Whiskey Festival, I'm a big fan of that. Jennifer and I went last year, had other obligations this year, but 2025 is inked in, dang it. That you're tasting there, you had a couple of the new makes and a couple of single cask aged new make. Okay. So not quite whiskey yet. Then okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Oh wow. I bet that was interesting. Very cool. Hey Graham. Good morning. Good morning. Better late than never. Not long home from another great tasting at the Glasgow Whiskey Club. Dude, we all have major FOMO that you get to do that. If you want to live vicariously through whiskey shenanigans and unbelievable experiences, just follow Graham because he's fabulous for sure. Yeah. So again, the Arnaho solid new make when we had it back in 2019. So I can imagine what it is like now. Kilhoman the same. Awesome. Hey Tim, great to be here. Thanks for being here, friend, in the comments and support. I appreciate it. Yeah. So what I have tonight is something I brought home this summer because their whiskey wasn't ready. And I was like, I got to bring something home, And I actually, me, the print is small and my eyes are old. So on their website, you can see the different types of new make they have. And I think they've got a couple more other than these, or these may be the ones they have right now, but they're sold out of some of the others, including the one I have, evidently. But when talking with Callum, it seems to me, you get the idea that they are really, they definitely want to play with their whiskey, and kind of figuring out where they want to go as a distillery, what they want to produce as a product. And when I was talking to Callum and you say, okay, you've got this first release, one of the things he mentioned, which I love so much, was that there was no back history. It's a brand new distillery. So they literally can go where they want to go. They're not tied, and he's not tied as a distillery manager. He's not tied to producing something that's already been defined prior to them. They are them. They are the ones that started this. So they can then decide, okay, we're going to do what we want to do. Sometimes that's kind of hard to figure out, like, where do you go? A blank slate is a little intimidating for a lot of folks. After meeting these folks, I think they're well up for the challenge, or they wouldn't have gotten this far, because it takes some moxie to start that kind of endeavor, and to see it through and just push through and have a lot of faith in the future of it getting where it needs to go, getting the right people in the right seats of the bus to get you to the place you want to go. After meeting Callum, I feel really great for them about what they've got going. So in getting and figuring out that identity, there's so much that they can come up with, but they have to experiment, so they set out as part of how they wanted to run their business is to figure out how they wanted just to try things, just to see things, not necessarily have to be chained to the tradition of what everyone else has done. And even that, you say, why start a distillery if you're going to do it like everybody else does it? Just, do more of that. So that's where we hear all of these crazy, and I say crazy because it's not what other folks do. As I told him, normal is boring. And these people are not boring. They are not making boring things at all, because they literally had 99 different recipes that they ran last year. When you look, or if it was last year or through the years, but they have a database of combinations of all types of malts and all types of yeast. When you walk through there and you do your tour, you go through an area where there's this beautiful display, and there's a quick glimpse of it in the interview video of all the types of malts that they use. This Arrival, yes, it's what I call normal malt, but they're using all different types of malts. And then they're also experimenting with different types of yeast and combinations of yeast. And maybe combinations of malt and combinations of yeast. I mean, they're just playing with all kinds of things to where they basically have a bank of recipes to go back to with notes on flavor and yield and all of those things. So where we call them kind of the mad scientists of coming up with all this stuff, all these different variations, the fact is they've built their own database to basically dial up whatever flavor profile they decide they want to make, which takes a whole lot of investment when you look at it on the like on a commercial level. That takes a whole lot of investment on the front end, rather than just cranking out stuff that can get you money really fast. So it's been interesting to see like how they got that far. What are they going to do with all those different, variations? I see a lot of single casts coming up, which is awesome. That's going to be really interesting. But they're also going to be able to see where their boundaries are. So yeah, let me come back to boundaries because there's a great quote. There's a great quote he talks about in there. And I see a couple of other new faces in. I see this guy. Hello, Saja. Hey, Gregor. It's time for a dram. So excited for the future of this. Yeah, especially for Edinburgh. That's your hometown. And that's a big part of this too, being part of the city, being part of the brewing heritage, that beer was king there, right? The fact that there's a distillery walking distance from Waverly Station, because I did it. And I walked up hills, folks. We ain't got no hills down here in Louisiana. But I walked up a hill and a couple of them. And yeah, it's easy to get to. You can actually get there. It's a beautiful place. The way that it's and help me out here, Kelly, if you're still on, but I'm pretty sure it's like a rail yard, maintenance area that is, a couple hundred years old, right at the base of Arthur's Seat. It's absolutely stunning. When you go upstairs in the bar area, there's a corner where the glass meets, and a little sitting area, and it's this staggeringly beautiful view of Arthur's Seat. And if you look that way, you see the Tipsy Midgie bar too. So yeah, easy to get to. It's great. Hey, Cool Running is in. Hello, friend. Thanks for being in. Hope you're enjoying all things Holyrood tonight. Really super excited for these guys. Ian's in. Good morning to you. Would be this evening for you, I think. And down in Australia. Great to see you, friend. Awesome. Yep. And Peter's in. Hey, good to see you. Oh, the Delbacks gift pack. Was using finished in pumpkin, chocolate, imperial stouts. Oh, wow. Okay. So they play a lot with their whiskey too, right? Absolutely. And Chris is in. Hey, everyone. Good to see you. Awesome. So yeah, this is interesting. So Fraser, can't talk. Graham has a couple of new make and first whiskeys in the past month from Falkirk, Ardnahoe, Portaleaf. I do have Portaleaf. Actually, I have Portaleaf right here. This one right here I poured when I was there this November. And 8 Doors. I don't know what 8 Doors is. Exciting times. So the Falkirk, I know they just released their first whiskey as well, right? Yeah. So Ian saying that the Holyrood seems experimental. They did that bub trial in a liquid antiquarian. Huh. Oh, yeah. Yes. Latest book from the 30s. Interesting. Okay. Very cool. Oh, you did get a single bat. I knew you would be able to have a dream of that. Huh. It's very interesting. So Chad says when he first heard about Holyrood, he wasn't going to focus on age statements, the core range, or house style. We were intrigued, having talked to the people involved, and after tasting, I'm very excited. That's a really big point because not only are they an upstart and they're doing the going through the innovation, but they're not following in those I guess category norms. None of the new distilleries are really doing age statements that I see, and you kind of wonder. So Ardnamurchan's what, 10 years now? Are they going to maybe come out with a 12 in a couple of years? Do they really need to come out with an age statement in a couple of years, the way everybody goes crazy over them now? Same thing with Rasse. Are they really going to do an age statement? Do they really need to do an age statement? And talking to Callum, he said that Rob Carpenter was like, core range is a dirty word, which I giggled over because it's so anti-establishment, and I absolutely love it. And one of the things he's like, he just kind of shake things up a little bit. And one of the things I've told my mom, and I mentioned this to Callum, is like, my mom has told me on occasion, don't rock the boat. And I'm like, but the boat ride is so much more fun if you're sitting there doing this, it's, within reason, but they are going to push boundaries. And there's a great part where Callum is talking about where his view of the set rules are. You have this box of these set rules of SWAs, thou shalt do these things. And you have to do that. It's very important to protect the category. You don't want to dilute that category to where other things can weaken it overall, because that's not going to help anybody for the long run. But I loved what he said, that his job was to get as close to the outside edge of that. And I sometimes think, when you think about larger brands, mainstay, core range brands, they're just sitting pretty and comfortable in the middle of the box. And you have other people that are outside trying to punch, not necessarily punch holes, but maybe make those four sides not so smooth. And I can definitely see where these folks are doing that. They're wanting to push it. They're wanting to see, will everything work? No, but if you don't try, you're not ever going to know, right? So, oh my gosh, I'm like waxing on and haven't had my first sip yet. So, I love all this discussion, y'all, so much. And we got a good group on tonight. Thanks so much. The whole algorithm thing, if you can hit the button and hit the like and all the things, I would love it. So Gregor says, your only wish for Holyrood was that they have a vision for where they want to point their whiskey. You're disappointed with their answer to what they want to do, or want their whiskey to be. I don't know what your answer was. And I think, that is kind of one of on my list of huhs, like, where strategy do you see? Where are they going to go from here? So let's talk about that a little bit more in a bit. So this is the wine bottle I brought home of new make. Gonna butcher this. So they had a whole entire new make series, brewer series, where they use different types of brewer's yeast. And this particular one is the Hefeweizen. I'm so gonna yeast. So the transparency part, this is the part I love, y'all. So let me do this so you can see. So this is the Holyrood Hefeweizen. It's crisp malts, East Lothian barley, 100% of that. 2 different yeasts. It's the Hefeweizen yeast and NG Plus. So I'm guessing that's probably a regular brewer's yeast. Gee. The wash ABV was at 9.1. Transparency. They're showing all their math. I love it. Fermentation time, 62 hours, which is interesting when you look at what the fermentation time is for arrival. And we'll talk about that in a bit. On spirit, 77.7. Off spirit, 58. Unpeated. And this bottle is at 60% ABV. And when I did my tour this summer, when I did my tour this summer, I went through and tasted a couple of the different new makes. This one just did it for me. Very malty and almost like an orange dreamsicle note on it for me. Very fruity. I mean, it's spirity, but it isn't. It's very coating. It's slightly oily, which is interesting because their stills are tall. I mean, tall. It's very clean. I don't want to say oily. That's probably the wrong. It's just it has some tooth to it. We talked about that, Callum and I did, about when we tasted the Arrival. I've not had it. Well, I've had it one other time since I met with him in November. I did open my bottle and have some here, but I haven't had it in a couple weeks because I want to wait for this. But the different types of yeast that are used, some kind of add a texture element to the wort. And he talked about cloudy wort, not all the wort being clear, but some of it being cloudy as well. And that kind of helping capture some of that taste and flavor to carry through the distillation process. To me, when I tasted all of them, and I say all of them, there was a chocolate malt one. Let me throw this back up here again. A chocolate malt one, crystal malt, and brewer's yeast. So when you go to their website, so if you go to the chocolate malt one, we click on that one, you can go and it's going to give you, again, the transparency is beautiful. It's going to give you all the things. I want to say this one. But even their new make, let's see. I don't think I can make that any bigger. But on the chocolate malt, that one was pot still malt and chocolate malt. So you know it's not going to be all chocolate malt because it wouldn't be tasty enough. Distiller's yeast, M strain, and Edinburgh ale yeast. So again, they're a throwback to the fact that Edinburgh was a beer town, right? And I love that part of it. All the way to the fact that when they get to their first, this looks like a beer bottle. It's amber, like a beer bottle, you know? So I love that about it. The marketing person in me loves that part about it. For sure. Yeah. So talking back on what Gregor brought up, and now, Chris, everyone is talking about, people buy whiskey profiles that they like. some repeatedly for the continuity, and it's important. And I think so, Chris, to an extent. I think some people are going to buy the thing that they want to buy, and they want it always. And I don't, and this may not be the distillery for those folks. This may be the distillery for those who want something new and different all the time. But you got to cut them some slack in the sense that they've only been going, up 4 or 5 years. So they've got a little ways to kind of figure out who they are. But their options are vast. Figuring out kind of where to get in a good commercial lane with that is going to be interesting to see. With the different new makes, there's some different ways you can go through that, and it's in the way that these new makes taste are going to lend themselves to certain caskings that I think a standard or just one solid, this is our new make and only our new make, that is not going to give other distilleries as much leeway in being able to play with their whiskey. This is a group that is, their strategy is innovation. Their strategy is being different. They're going to have some consistency. I don't think they're out to make one unicorn bottle after another. I don't think that's where it is. I think, to me, I got the idea that they were just really wanting to go and just figure out what all was possible. And from what's possible, let's hone down on what we really liked and want to go from there. I think they're still trying to find that identity. And it's probably going to take more than a couple of bottlings and more than a couple of seasons probably to figure that out, because they have that many choices to make. But, what is maturing now is definitely going to be tasting different in 3 or 4 more years. So I don't know. I think it's interesting to see how that is. And so, let's listen from them. Kelly says, and thanks for your comment, Kelly. I appreciate that. You want your whiskey to be delicious. It's not about aiming for a specific goal, but rather experimenting in the pursuit of delicious whiskey. Is it just tasty? And not even the just part. And I think that Callum talks about that a little bit in our chat. It doesn't have to fall in. I mean, this is avant-garde, y'all. This is kicking up the fire ant pile and running like hell to an extent, because it's not going to be the same bottle on the shelf in your local stockist retailer, right? It's not going to be up there next to Glenmoe 10 and all the different versions of Glenmorangie. It's not going to be that. It's going to be what it's going to be, which it just seems to me is a very different way of doing things. But it's their business, and if they're making good whiskey, knock yourself out, folks. I'm for it. I'm all for it. So that's a good point, Andrew. Wolf Barn has started their 10, and Lockley did a 5. Yeah, Graham's right there with it too. Yeah, and there's nothing to say that whether or not it's required to have a statement. I think it might be like, what's important to you. Is it important to know the age of it? And we'll get into the tasting here. Good gravy. This one's good, y'all. I'm really enjoying this conversation, and I know it's interesting that and it is getting a little bit some great conversations going on in the chat, but that's why we're here, is to discuss, not necessarily cuss and discuss, but just to discuss whiskey. So October, they finally are able to roll over and get their whiskey out to everyone, which I love the fact they were able to do that. And I was glad I was able to get a bottle because all the places I tried to order for one before I went over for Glasgow Whiskey Festival, they weren't there. They were already sold out, which was wonderful. So I knew I was going back. I had to took the train, got over there, and was able to get the bottle, of course, of Arrival. Let me do that. And again, the hourglass, I think is a shout out to the train station, the brown bottle and beer bottle shape, to the brewing heritage of Edinburgh. And like our friends at Ardnamurchan and a few other ones, there is the QR code. So I don't know if I can get up there. That's close enough for y'all to do. But basically the QR code is there to show you the magic, show you the different math behind everything. So while I'm tasting this, I will pop this back up here. This is really tiny. Needless to say, go to the website. You can see this. But this is, God, it's got a cool nose. This is the information on Arrival. Crisp malts. It's Scottish pot still malt. 2 different yeast, DY379 and DY502. What are those? Those are 2 different types of yeast, basically used for different types of grain. First, the 379 is a grain whiskey yeast, and the second is a malt whiskey yeast, 502. When you look at the wash was at 7.6 on the wash. This new make was over 9. This is what I loved, the difference between things. The fermentation time, 100.4 hours for what is in Arrival. This new make was at 62 hours. So not quite double, but a good chunk more. The maturation is really interesting on this one because it's bourbon matured across the board. Sorry. I don't know if you got any of that. So I hit the wrong button. Can you tell? So their cask maturation was all in bourbon barrels. Some stayed and some went into Oloroso butts, PX hogshead, and rum barriques. So you have you're playing with your whiskey there too, right? Building depth with different maturations for this first go for it. So you did talk to him when he was up there, and they are going to do a 10-year special release this year. So that tells me it's not going to be core range, right? It's a commemorative 10-year to celebrate 10 years. And that's awesome. But that's another point where it's not necessarily going to be a 10-year core range unless they do it annually, never know. Hey, Tim. I love this. I went to Holyrood and all I got was a t-shirt. Oh, with Adderall. Yum. Very good. But I know you said you got to taste some new make there as well in the Arrival. Yeah. And in addressing kind of the discussion about identity and figuring out where you are. I would kind of like it to. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I got out of high school. I still didn't know what I wanted to be when I got out of college. I think I had a general idea, and I feel like I've done okay. But part of where you're going is the journey. And I hear you, Gregor. I totally get you about, having some type of identity. But I also kind of think they probably have more of that than they understand where they're going. That's maybe just really not disclosed to us, and that's okay. That's their business. Um, and if what they want is one-offs, as long as they're good, I'm happy for them. But it is going to be what you look for from a distillery. If that is so very important, if consistency year in and year out of the same type of whiskey is very important to somebody, then this probably isn't going to be it. If it's going to be something, I want something new and different, it's probably going to be your jam. So, and that's the beauty. There's so much out there. They'll be able to do all of that. Yeah. So I absolutely love it. Yeah, one of the interesting facets Graham talks about is at Holyrood, in the tour are the chalkboards. Yes, with all the different strains of yeast and strains of barley and the yeast that they're mashing at that time. It's like you walk through there and you have the fermentation is going on, the mash is going on, and getting all of that rather. And back behind on the wall are these huge chalkboards, and it's telling you, whoever is walking through that day, they're going to be able to see what malt they are using, and probably I think it's pretty much in what proportion as well, and then what yeast they're using. And then when you go over to the still, you're going to be able to see what is running in that, what batch is running at that time. And that part of the transparency is just, it's phenomenal. And I love it. I love all of it. It's really, really, really good. So, everyone, well, I think we've always heard that too. You get so much of it from the cask. And I think that's a big part of it. I really do think the cask is, I don't know about 90%. What I know is I and have I gone and had new make from all the big mass market people? No, I haven't. Um, but when you can have a new make and you think, okay, that's pretty good to sip on and make a hell of a cocktail. What's that? I mean, immediately you're going, that sits in a cask for a while. It's going to do some really good stuff. And also, it seems that there's a big trend that quality casks are still are getting to where they're very difficult to find, if not really expensive. So if you've got a better new make, you're just doing better, but I think those who need to lean on the cask have decided that the cask is what does the work. It does work. I just don't think I would want all my eggs in that basket or that cask, if you know what I mean. So very interesting. So on nose, because I am going to do a review of this. Oh man. So Jennifer, you know me so well. You didn't know me for 2 days before I was spouting some of my sayings in Iowa. You're going, oh Lord. It's amazing what happens when you get going. I mean, the nose is so I want to say balanced. And that's the thing I remember from talking with Callum when we had this, is that there was a very nice balance to this. New whiskey has a tendency to be very harsh on the front end. Baby whiskey, very young whiskey at times. There's nothing off-putting. When Jennifer and I were in Iowa, and we were lucky enough, how the stars aligned, to be able to sit and have dinner with Jim McEwen, and he's walking us through a tasting, and he's saying the very first thing you do when you nose a whiskey is you determine, is there anything off-putting? Dude's telling me that. I'm like going to use it as gospel, right? And there really isn't. I mean, I get the sweetness of from the sherry and almost that kind of bubble gum, like on the rum side of it. Underlying malt, and again, I get just a hint of citrus. I don't know, more lemon maybe. Jennifer, I'd love to see what you're getting on this too. Kathy, thanks for the comment. Yeah, admire a distillery that's willing to explore and experiment with what they wanted to produce, having the freedom to do different things to see how that works and what doesn't. And that's costly. That ain't cheap. That's a lot of risk, and it's costly. I'm looking at the dollars and cents of this. God love you, Kelly. I'm gonna light a candle for you for yeah, because that's just not easy. Talk about the road less traveled, right? So, okay. So Graham said he was talking to distiller friend who recently, who believes adding brewer's yeast aids in longer maturation times. Yeah, somebody who knows the chemistry better than me could talk to that. I know that Calvin was talking about he used a champagne yeast, I think it was, along with another yeast that basically ate the champagne yeast. Like it was a little, kind of carnivorous there for a moment on it. I love this. On your whiskey journey, yes, it's all a journey, right? You fell into the Kilkerran hole and you can't get out. You don't have a button on you're like, help, I've fallen and I can't get up. And it's not a plea for help. Well, you better might want to move over because there's a couple of us that wouldn't mind coming down there with you. Texture wise, it's light, but has some depth there. It's very sweet on the front end, like a sugar sweet. But it's that mid-tone palate. The mid-palate kind of goes into it kind of goes savory, like a warm honey and I don't want to say like meat. It's not like Mortlock. It's more it just rounds out with some depth there. You can kind of tell it's a young whiskey. I don't taste wise, it's certainly not on the smell. It's a little warm and a little peppery on the end, but it's not like hot. Like so many young whiskeys can be so flaming hot on the back end. I would actually like to see this on a blind. I really would. Speaking of, we've got some Camp Dram blinds coming up in the next couple of months. You never know. Just saying. If there are any Camp Drammers that want to do this, I've talked to a couple of you. I'm going to send out samples and we're going to go through the gold standard way, Roy's way of doing a blind. Let me know for sure. Yeah. Chad, that's a big part too, right? So they get some longer fermentation times because they're in the middle of the city, y'all. They literally have an apartment, condominiums and things. I mean, they're in the residential area, for goodness sake. So they have to be good neighbors. So they only have Monday through Friday, they're not running 24 hours. And so that brings up another one of these themes of what I got out of that is they are looking for quality over quantity. They are not looking at having, mass production of something. And they're very collaborative. I love the way Callum was talking about if any of his folks had an idea about how to put something together, that they'd run it. Um, you look at the new makes, and whoever the distiller was that came up with that, their name's on the bottle. That gives, from a managerial standpoint, because it's not easy being a manager, but a managerial standpoint, someone who's, owning a business to get things, when people feel like they have ownership of something, they're going to lean into it. They're going to put a shoulder into it and do something and make it so. So again, kudos for them to do that. That's interesting, Ian. I may be in a great position to pivot in the industry, demographic, and sales change. Yeah. I think those who can make some pivots. The industry's really changing a lot, isn't it? Don't you think? I'm trying to figure out what that is, what that spice is on the end. It's almost like creme brulee and it's not really a cinnamon, but more of like a cardamom or something like that. It's just very pleasant. The finish hangs a little bit of heat just hangs on at the end. It's very nice. Yeah, special releases May rather than the core range. Yep, for sure. I am woefully behind on these comments. Sorry, guys. So you want to qualify and cadet? It's very hard to get your complete point on text, friend. I totally understand. You're super excited and encouraged. I totally get that. I absolutely do. I do. For everything they do. And you walked away with 2 bottles of Arrival. You got one to drink and a backup. I hear you. No, I don't think anybody, anybody thought that. And I love the fact that we can come into space and talk about this. That's what it's here for. It is what it's here for. Absolutely love it. Times you get a little bit of all the included cask on the nose. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The bourbon is like your good base, right? You got your good. I'm getting a little bit of hint of vanilla on the front end. I'm going to put a little water on this too. Sherry cask, rum cask, very complex. Yeah. And I think good on you, Callie. Good on you, Rob. Good on you, Callum. Because a new whiskey, straight up, being able to add those different elements helps build that depth on a young whiskey. Alistair Day's doing it with his 3 different types of cask, peated and unpeated, so 6 variations, adding that depth to it. You got to do something like that. And I was talking with Calvin, and you got to get something to market, because they've been running experiments for years now. You got to start selling stuff. People want to see it. Kevin, yes, we are so going to get you a blind challenge. Ooh, I love it. We must do that. Awesome. It's very brave considering the competition in self-space is insane now, and there are now more American single malts companies than in Scotland. Everwind, I hear you. And I love the category of American single malts. But I've had that year age of American single malts next to this, and there's only a couple I would tell you that are consistently to this caliber. And the U.S. is so consumed with its bourbon, they're going to take a while to get out of that rut, if you will, and get out of that lane to explore other things. It's still going to take them a while to do that. Still going to take a while. So again, just to kind of recap, and I'll have to do another Camp Dram fully forward this. Before a very young whiskey. And I was looking, I don't know if it has a bottling date. I didn't see the bottling date. I'll have to put that in the comments if I can see it. But you know, for the age that it is, even if you didn't know what the age of it is, it's a solid dram. Like Chad was talking about with the depths of, you just kind of pick out a little this and a little that. Rum cask, which I plan to talk about in 2 weeks on Mardi Gras, is something that I struggle with. Callum was like, I'm a sucker for rum cask whiskeys. And I'm like, I kind of have trouble with them. And I think it's the sweet part because, bourbon's not my thing. But it's interesting how all of that kind of layers, and nothing's really fighting on the taste. It's not really fighting one another. So that's really pretty cool. So Jennifer, if you're still on, I don't know if you're on, dear. I know you got a lot going on. But I'd love to know what your thoughts are, unless I missed them on this dram. For sure on that. I'm kind of running back just to see if I missed her tasting notes. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to have some water on this and we'll wrap this up because I know we've gone a little bit over, but that's such great conversation tonight. I love it. And I do appreciate you, Kelly, being on. I didn't anticipate that. I'm really happy you could join us. And those who really know me know I say what I say and what I mean. So I put about 3 drops. Getting a little bit more honey on the nose now. And got a little hotter on the nose, which is, that always happens when you throw water on it, right? It seems to be. Jennifer says, I'm sewing and watching, but are you drinking? And are you drinking this? So if you are drinking it, let me know. Let me know what you had. Andrew, a Black Forest tiramisu. Like Black Forest cake tiramisu. Interesting. I pretty much know what you're talking about. Okay. Thanks for sharing that. I know, I just, God, if we could all just retire and go be Graham. You just drop by Holyrood and then try their new make, the Young Spirits, First Whiskeys. If they're closed, go over to Tipsy Mingy. Always have their whiskey there. Awesome. Yep. Thanks everyone for being here. Appreciate it, friend. Yeah, on the nose, I'm still getting malts coming out a little bit more and a little bit of cinnamon, huh? That's interesting. So this is at 46.1 ABV. So something I would rarely ever put water on purpose. And it's, I probably wouldn't put water on it, but it diluted it a little bit, but it didn't wash it completely out. Still a good bit of sweet on the front, a little hotter on the end now. Again, I find that happens with me with water. I'm getting more of a malty sour on the finish with the water. Hey, Kelly, Rob, kudos to y'all for deciding to put a stake in the ground and doing this. Hella respect for that. Thanks again for taking the time with me this summer and allowing Callan to chat with me. He was an absolute delight. I felt like I've known him all my life. But yeah, y'all are going to be doing some cool stuff. And I know that the city's happy, I know Port Leith is starting up, but it's still going to be a ways before they get anything out. And I'm happy that I can tell people, like, if you're going to Scotland, you can get, and you're going to be in Edinburgh, you need to go. I've got a friend who's not even in whiskey, and when she saw this, she said, we're going to be there in March. And I'm like, it's worth going. It's just worth going. Go have a cocktail. If you don't want the whiskey, just go have a cocktail. It's worth seeing. So I really do appreciate that. Yeah, Donna, when is that next trip? You must get there. It's so easy. I feel like I'm a professional now that I know how to take the train from Queen Street station over in Glasgow and get off at Waverly and just go walk up the hill and get there. It's awesome. So Graham's here. I don't know what, I got a brain thing going tonight, Graham. Bonington Distillery in Edinburgh has have just released their inaugural release. Where is that one? I know Callum talked about that, but I didn't know where that was. Yeah, interesting. So Donna's going in July. Awesome. Donna Pass, no worries, friend. I will say this one was really pretty good. If you might want to watch a replay on this one for sure. Yeah, this is really, really interesting. Oh, so Graham says that one's going to be in Leith too, along with the Port Leith. Port Leith is a little, you can see it, but to get to it is an adventure. Just keep trying. You'll get there. And when you get there, they're going to tell you that they're really glad that you did get there. Yeah. So arrival is, if you can find if you've got somebody there that can get you a bottle, the distillery is the only place the bottles are available anymore. They have their single cask release. And so that's there. If you're interested in this kind of this distillery, what they're going to, just keep watching them, keep watching the space. They are the darling at the moment. They were on Whisky, the cover of Whisky magazine, the UK Whisky magazine, and they were also on Angel Share, which my box of Angel Share magazines just showed up this week. So yeah, read more about that, watch the podcast, or watch as a podcast, whatever you need to do. But yeah, I'm excited for y'all. I really am. Martin's in. Hey, friend. No worries. Believe me, it's worth the rewatch or the re-listen. The kiddos come first. We know that. Whether you're delivering them or taking care of your own. Really do. So yeah, guys, thanks again so much. Excited working on more camp drams, trying to get to the camp. If you saw the post on Instagram, we've had a ton of water. We had probably 8 to 10 inches of rain over last week. And so the rivers come up and kind of backed in through to the backyard. Not bad, which is fine. Mark went down and took care of everything this week and checked everything out. So no problems with flooding or anything like that. But what it does is we need those river rises like that. And we actually need a couple more because our drought was so bad last year that all the crawfish have dug deeper into the mud, which means it takes longer for them to come up and get caught and end up in a crawfish boil. So people are in a bit of a panic down here because crawfish are extremely expensive right now because they're so scarce. So we really want to be able to get crawfish soon because Easter's early this year, and Good Friday is the day you don't want to be a crawfish in the state of Louisiana because you're going to end up on somebody's mama's table on their carport and a crawfish boil. So, but yeah. Kevin, where can I get a t-shirt like that? There's a link in the description for the Teespring site. There's Slàinté, there's Scotch on the Bayou shirts and Camp Dram shirts. So there you go. Guys, thanks so much. We're going to wrap up here again. Check out the video with Callum. More stuff to come. I'm super excited about, I'm in a groove of getting all of this really good footage and putting it to use in some good, interesting videos, and they're going to be on the little long side, but they're very informational. So, stat wise, this particular one hasn't been seen as much, but it's run longer than most all of them because it's so interesting. So take it on and take a listen to it, and let me know if things like this, like the interview with distillery managers or different people within distilleries, if that's something that you really enjoy, because I would love to do more of those, if that's something that you'd like to watch and to know more about. So yeah, thanks again, everybody. We'll see you next Tuesday. Until then, find me on socials, shoot me an email, scotchwithbayou@gmail.com. And otherwise, I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye, guys.